This is Ryan Abraham and Chris Trevino, USCFootball.com. Instant analysis following USC spring practice number 11. Back here on Howard Jones Field after we got to go to the Coliseum on Tuesday for the first time. It was a defensive day, kind of a Korey Foreman day, I guess you could say. We're going to talk about that. But really the focus was on the defensive front. Just at the beginning of practice, I tried to watch a bunch of the safeties. They were going through drills. I know you might have been checking out some Damani Jackson stuff over there. Nicole was filming some of the cornerbacks and stuff. But anything kind of stand out to you at the beginning of practice before we get into what the players and coaches said?
Yeah, I mean, just a lot of energy. That's why I think I gravitate toward watching those defensive backs, because Alex Grinch and Dante Williams are always in their face. You know, they want more reps. They want it perfect. They stress, make it a good rep. Don't just BS the rep. Go through it. If they don't go through it good enough for them, they make them do it again, or they make them get a better rep. That's kind of what they're doing, and it's all about effort over there. They want you to get to the drill quick, move to the next station quick. That's all about. It's about emphasis. It's about emphasizing effort and getting to the next place with speed, because obviously this is a speed defense.
Yeah.
So they want to see that in practice. Even if you're just doing individual drills, you have to put in that kind of effort. So when you put the whole puzzle piece together, that it kind of works like that. So I think that's why we kind of gravitate towards the defensive backs. It doesn't hurt that they're the closest position group we can see, or we're right up on them. But yeah, you like hearing that yelling from Alex Grinch, from Dante Williams, and getting in there and really coaching up a guy like Damani Jackson, who's still a little bit out of shape, but he's slowly getting back into it, sort of doing individual drills off that knee surgery. They're working him in slowly, kind of keeping him out of those little contact periods, but he's coming along nicely.
Yeah, we get to watch those guys up close, and they do a lot of ball drills. I watched the linebackers a little bit. They were pretty close too, but they just were kind of running through some pads. They weren't really doing a whole lot. When they're throwing up balls that you can intercept, that's a lot of fun. And every time someone would backpedal and didn't do it the right way, Alex Grinch would stop the drill and have them do it again. But we didn't get to really talk to anybody in the secondary. We didn't talk to Alex Grinch today. Didn't talk to Dante Williams. It was all about the front seven. So we got Sean Nua, the defensive line coach. You got Roy Manning, who's the outside linebacker coach. But the main guy, and I know you got to talk to him, Korey Foreman, former 5-star. First time this spring, we got to see him. Talked to Roy Manning. He said he's been out here for 5 practices, so maybe a little bit more than what we had thought from what they were saying. But what did anything interesting Korey Foreman have to say?
I feel like there's a Korey Foreman effect, and every time everyone wants to talk about Korey Foreman. They specifically asked Sean Nua about Korey Foreman. They specifically asked Roy Manning about Korey Foreman. But now we get to hear from the man himself, number 0. But yeah, he's been battling, a little bit of an injury. He had rehabbed an injury he suffered in the offseason. He kind of let us in on it, that it was sort of a dislocation of his knee, which is ouch. So obviously that's something you want to take precaution with. He said it happened in kind of PRPs when they were running around out there. So good thing they've, played that slow, easing back into it, but he's very grateful and he's blessed to be back out here. He had a big smile on his face. I asked him how he's doing. He's like, man, it's just great to be back out here. So Korey has that personality, that smile, so that's still intact, that's still fully healthy. He was just really excited to be back out here and be part of this team again, and sort of be a full participant in practice, and sort of get in there and start to learn this defense really with the full pads practice and all that. He's learning a new position, sort of, that rush end spot. He kind of talked about how he's standing up more, he's doing more stand up, and he said it's been tricky kind of learning that, but as long as he's, eyes and ears in the meeting room, he's going to be okay. And he's looking forward to, putting last season behind him. What he said he learned from that season is, like, you got to learn that everything is not against you, and kind of seeing the good in the bad. Obviously there was a lot of bad with USC last year, so that's an important lesson to learn when you're going through a season like that. But he kind of said, his goal is to not, be on the sideline as much. He doesn't want to be on the bench. He wants to be out there on the field making plays, as those expectations were for him as a freshman. He flashed it a couple of times, but you want to see that consistently, especially for a guy who has more competition now. You bring in Romello Height from Auburn, and I'm sure they're going to try to bring in more edge rushers to kind of bolster out the position. But he said him and Romello have a really good relationship. That's his guy. He's learned a lot from him. And, it's good to have that he has some sort of mentor in that room. And a guy that looks very similar to him in terms of his...
He's yoked?
He's yoked. He's learning if you watch Tunnel Vision. Yeah, but those two big guys, if they have a good working relationship, that's just only going to benefit a young guy like Korey Foreman.
Yeah, so I got to talk to Roy Manning for a while. I asked him a couple questions. Every other question after that was about Korey Foreman, because everyone wanted to talk about Korey Foreman. One of the things he talked about, you mentioned that he's standing up a lot more. He sort of played a lot of different positions last year. He had his hand on the ground and moving around. So I think that was an issue. They're trying to keep him more in one thing. He said that, he's a very talented player. You want to try to get him on the field however you can, but it just didn't seem to work. So they're going to try to keep him like in more of a one position sort of situation. And want to see him out there. You got to be available, right? And I think that's part of what you're going to see from Korey Foreman. But being able to just kind of be that stand-up defensive end kind of guy, rush end kind of person, get after the quarterback. Roy said he has tremendous pass rushing skills. One of the things is, can you figure out your run fits? If a tackle's pulling, what do you do? Like, there's a lot of stuff that's happening on that for the defensive front that you have to be ready for. He can rush the passer, but can he do some of those other things? And that's where I think he's got to grow as a player.
Yeah, just kind of rounding out that game and and that's a good way to put it. Kind of last season they try to put him in all these different situations, which is a lot for a true freshman coming into college football
who didn't play a senior year.
That's a lot to throw at someone. It'd be like if you tried to make me do Tunnel Vision, the Parasol podcast, and Instant all at once. You got to ease me into it. You got to ease him into it. So it's good that they're sort of limiting his defensive role now, just sort of he can focus on one thing, which is pass rushing. And as you said, you just got to have that complete game, because if you want to be on the field, you want to be a 3-down pass rusher, you have to be on the field for the whole series. You can't just be coming for the third quarter. Obviously, Romello Height seems to be the lead in that spot right now, that edge spot, just what we've seen with the pursuit drills, which gives us a kind of a glimpse as to who's working with the first team. And obviously Korey's coming back from that injury. So, he's going to have to work to bump off Height. And as I said, they have a really good relationship. So that's working for them, but coming along slowly. But it seems like that's how you want to do it with Korey. Bring him on slowly, and so you can kind of tap into those skills that he has as a former number one player.
Yeah. I got to talk to Kansas State transfer Tyrone Taleni, and man, he's just a fun kid to talk to. He came over here in 2017, went to Mount Sac, transferred to Kansas State, hadn't played football, played rugby, hadn't played football at all. And so just him, just kind of learning. He walks to the coach at Mount Sac, is like, hey, can I play? They're like, they're sure. And they just kind of figure it out from there. But great kid. He just seems to be kind of fitting in with this group. It's one of the common themes. There's a lot of players that just got here a few months ago, and it just seems like the chemistry with all these guys are pretty good. But he's definitely going to be someone that's fun to watch. Watch for number 31 out there.
Yeah, very personable guy. We've talked about him on Instant before when he first made his media appearance. But yeah, just a really fun guy. Just really, you can get that he really loves being at USC. As we mentioned before, he has family that are out here in California, and they're super big Trojan fans. So it's a dream for him to be able to play. And I'm sure that season opener, and I'm sure they'll be here for the spring game in about a little less than a week. But he is someone that Sean Nua said has been taking that position very well. He's very mature, which kind of helps with that position group. And we kind of saw him working with the first team defense today in those pursuit drills. So it kind of flips a little bit. You see Tuli up there, you see Nick Figueroa, and then some days you might see Earl Barquette, the TCU guy, and then Taleni, who was working there today. So it's always constantly fluctuating, which is what you want to see. You want to see who's pushing who to kind of get up into that first team defense, make them earn that spot, because you have someone right behind you that wants your job. So that's good to see. He's a little bit undersized, but this defense, it likes quickness, and he is smaller. He's like almost like a jumbo fullback kind of deal.
Yeah.
So we're gonna see how that kind of works with the defensive line, but he is quick. And, he is strong, and he's not afraid to hit, as Sean Nua was talking about. Because when you play rugby, you're not afraid to be physical. No. You're not wearing any pads. You're not wearing any helmet. And you really have to have that technique when you're tackling. So those are strengths that he has. And now he has a little bit more extra padding now that he has football. So that is going to be an interesting storyline. And, I feel like we're going to be excited to see kind of what he does out on the field, tackling people, getting to hit people in that spring game.
Yeah, for sure. One of the other players that we were asked about a few times, Julian Simon, the inside linebacker, kind of a quiet kid. Got to talk to him a little bit today, and I asked him about the playbook. He said that's certainly been one of his concerns as far as like what he's kind of learning and going through. But he seems like he has a really good attitude. He looks up to a guy like Shane Lee, likes working with Brian Odom, the inside linebackers coach. And, you look at him, he's an athletic kid. He came in as a highly ranked recruit. You kind of get the feeling like, all right, this is someone that can make some noise here for USC at the linebacker spot that really didn't get a lot of guys that were performing well last year.
Yeah, I mean, Raylan Goforth also talked about Julian Simon and kind of talked about how sort of he's taken his game to the next level, sort of what you were talking about, and that, he's He's bigger, faster, stronger than he was a year ago. And the mental aspect, the game is slowing down for him. And that's kind of what you want to see. I feel like he's still kind of working with that third team unit, but that kind of shows, the linebacker depth is just getting a little bit deeper. It's not going to be easy to move up. You got to push to move up. And, that's someone that a lot of people have asked us about him, Julian Simon with Rajon Davis. Raylan Goforth was also very complimentary of Rajon and said those two guys are really working hard. You can tell that their mental game has really taken a step up from last year.
Goforth, I think you gave an update on his height and weight. It seems a little bigger than last year.
Yeah, I kind of joked with them. It's like, if you put on weight, you look a little bigger. I feel like that's a question we have to start asking these guys because they're very complimentary of Benny Wiley and the job that he's done. And he says, yeah, this is like the first camp he's felt like he hasn't really lost weight, and it's kind of like sticking on him and staying with him. And he's about 235 pounds right now. That's kind of what he wants to be. He doesn't really have a weight goal. He just wants to be at a good, solid weight and be able to hit and dish out punishment, but also run. Because in this defense, you have to run. That's what he said. So he wants to stay light enough to do that, but still nice. And it's about 10-pound gain from last spring. He said it was about 225 last spring camp. So up 10 pounds. That's a really good mark for a linebacker like him. And, he's been one of the more consistent guys on this defense. That's something that Alex Grinch has mentioned. That's something that Lincoln Riley has mentioned, him and Shane Lee. And he's really kind of owning into that because this is his, he's going for his third year as a starter. And, I feel like he has something to prove just kind of with the inconsistency that he has had. And he said, I want to work on a bunch of different things this offseason. And, it sounds like he's showing that because with this defense and these coaches, they're not going to put you out there if you're not proving it. And if he's out there with the first team consistently, it shows that he's proving it. And also, everyone has talked about the impact of Shane Lee. Shane Lee has had an impact on everyone. He's had an impact on you and me even probably. He was just talking about, he pushes him to be better and they kind of want to have the same goal. So that helps him find a deeper focus and want to be better. So the Shane Lee effect, the Korey Foreman effect, it's all in effect right now.
Yeah, speaking of getting better, Solomon Tuliaupupu, former inside linebacker, now playing on the defensive line. And I know Sean Nua had some good things to say about him.
Yeah, you could just tell when, he was asked about Solomon that kind of his demeanor changed and it was kind of like, this is kind of a special kid in the sense that he kind of said that he doesn't think there's anyone else who has more true Trojan blood or true USC blood than him. And that means that, he loves being at USC. And you kind of get that feeling if you ever talk to Solo. And, he kind of talked about how obviously Solo has been through a lot. And, you kind of saw the Nua, his demeanor kind of change, as I just mentioned, and kind of say like he has a home now. So it sounds like, Solo has found a true home now with that defensive line. They've embraced him. And, he says he's got a skill set that works with that defensive front. Like we said, it's not all about size with his defense. It's about the speed. So Solo has that violence and that speed, and he can edge rush and he can pass rush. So it's a good fit, and we just got to see what it looks like, come a spring game because we haven't really been able to see it fully outside of, some individual drills. But that's a storyline I'm definitely going to be looking forward to on April 23rd.
Yeah, man, if Rajon Davis, Julian Simon, Solomon Tuliaupupu can all contribute, all the fans are going to go crazy for that one. They've been waiting for that for a while. We'll probably wrap it up with some injury updates unless you have anything else.
Yeah, I mean, sort of some injury updates. Obviously Mekhi Blackman, he did not practice on Tuesday, had that walking boot. We saw him today. He did not practice. But was out of the boot, so I don't really know what that means. Maybe he'll be in a boot next week. Maybe
he walked in like street clothes with the jersey in his hand.
Yeah, he seemed fine. And then the other big one is obviously Gary Bryant. He was carted off the field on Tuesday. Lincoln kind of said, nothing to worry about. Kind of like Blackman, he could have played if they had a game, but he didn't seem too concerned about it. But Gary Bryant did not practice, and noticeably he was limping. He had that limp in his walk. That tells me probably a muscle injury of some sort. He's battled those all through last year. So I don't know, just based off how he was walking, and with 4 practices left, it's going to be a toss up to see if maybe he's going to
shut it down.
You don't want to push, a hamstring or a thigh, whatever it could be. You don't want to push that. So there's a possibility we don't see Gary Bryant for the rest of spring game, which is, a bummer. We want to kind of see that speed with this offense put together with deep shots from Miller Moss and Caleb Williams. So that is a disappointment. The other interesting one would be Darwin Barlow. I noticed that after team warmups, he did not go off with individual drills. He kind of stayed with that rehab group. So, that's something to watch, especially with a position group that's already pretty light with just 3 scholarship running backs. So it seemed like they're kind of down to 2 with Travis Dye and Austin Jones being fully healthy. Not really sure what's going on with Darwin Barlow, but he was fully dressed. It just looked like he was doing some conditioning rehab. So that's something that's something we'll have to watch and probably ask Lincoln about on Saturday. But other than that, seemed pretty standard. Lake McCree, he was there at practice, but he was out. Colin Mobley, he is still out. Xavier Alford, he is still out as well. So Bobby Haskins, he is still in shells and the no cleats, so he's still rehabbing. So, and like we mentioned, Demonte Jackson and Josh Jackson are doing individual drills. They're a little bit limited, but they are a lot further along in their process than they were when they started.
All right, well, that's going to wrap things up as the sun sets in our face here in Heritage Hall. It's just, whenever we start the videos in Heritage Hall, then like the sun goes down, it all changes and stuff. But so we're a little bright in here, but that's going to wrap it up inside Heritage Hall. Chris Trevino, I'm Ryan Abraham. Make sure you check out uscfootball.com for more.